So every time I start one of these, one of the first prompts that I have to hit as like going through the sequence to go live is whether this is for children. And so like almost every single time that I'm doing this, one of the first things I think is not for children. Um just because they'd be bored. So that's or maybe occasionally there's been a couple of swears every now and then. But I wanted to jump on right now, and this is a little I'm gonna read this page 120, but this is a little bit out of sequence, but I wanted to talk about something that right now is like very parinama. It's very much what I'm experiencing right now as a person who practices this and lives it. And in chapter 12, there's the reversal where we're going the reverse order down the hubs. And this is in creation, which is where we start in a incredibly expansive state of like, I guess in a way you could almost be like of complete possibility. So it's kind of this like universal cosmic sense of creating space for something new. And into that space, we're asking questions and allowing for the answers to land. And as the answers land, we become more clear as we go down into the sixth hub about what it is that we are like in the process of creating. And then we begin to articulate it more effectively. And that, in the fifth hub, we're going backwards. And then in the fourth hub is when people come and we start to be bold because we have the vision that's beginning to crystallize. We're beginning to be able to express it more effectively. And now it's like we're recruiting the right people. People are coming in. And this happens in like, I mean, it's not like ding, 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 but there's, like this is kind of the, you know, yeah, this is the process. And then we get into like the really like the doing part of it, of really execution. And then there's the aspect of with the execution, and this has to do with how you make money on things, which is in the second hub, we're figuring out how things resonate with people. And we're figuring out how how what we're doing matters, and we're also even exploring our own kind of emotional self. I mean, we get into this in chapter 12, and then the first hub revisited is about landing something as a physical reality. And the thing I want to talk about, because it's like really top of mind right now because I'm going through it, is with parinama, the creation of parinama, is that I am coming out of this really expansive, I'm in it. I'm in the very expansive state of this, which is like, what is this supposed to be in the world? The book started this way when it wasn't even a book. It was just like, what is this thing I'm supposed to be doing? And then, and so, and, back to the thing that, it was like that, like Lin-Manuel Miranda thing that I saw where he's like, where people would ask him about ideas and he's like, it's not one idea, it's like a lot of ideas. And so part of the thing is like getting into this process is being able to be really good at receiving them. And so receiving inspiration by being like, here's the thing I'm trying to do, like, and asking without knowing the answer. Very important. A lot of times we're cutting off the connection to a response because we're kind of implying we already know that it's either possible, not possible, how it's done. So we're kind of saying like, well, how do I build this thing? Who is this thing for? What form does it take? What am I supposed to, it's like, and vaguely, like, what form does this take? And kind of sitting with that. And luckily, I'm better at this now. So it happens a little bit faster, works a little bit faster than it did with the book. This phase actually probably took 10 times longer with the book because I was really resisting kind of a time of not doing as being incredibly uncomfortable. So I just kept going back to doing things that I knew how to do and that I was comfortable with versus being able to stay in this space of inquiry and remain like it actually was the first thing was just like feeling the impetus. Like I've had this like the urge to kind of like purge my home. And that was one of those things that was naturally arising. It's like create space, make room for new things, make room for new things. And even I would say to anyone watching this is pay attention to that. Like when there's this sense of like just move things out, it's like something new. This is like the process of something new coming in. So okay, it's like this isn't, I guess, I don't know, it's not, this part of it isn't super like new. The new part, or not the new part, like what I've talked about here, is that I've, having done this, um in the conventional world with like building companies, I guess you could, like, and like building a lot of things. I built a bunch of things that are, all, like, in a lot of ways, and kind of practice this. And now I think with Parinama, it's actually like institutionalizing it and explaining what it is. And okay, this is a digression, but I'm going to explain it. Is that some of the like advising and mentoring and teaching I do, it was like it used to be in those sessions where you don't have a lot of time. um, it's like really ripe for projection if you don't have a framework. And the thing was, once I was writing Parinama, actually my advising got a lot better with the, like, for example, I work with Babson, their entrepreneur center or whatever, and those sessions were just so clean. I could in 30 minutes like really like drill down and get to a place where we were actually creating an actionable plan, using this, like basically the funnel in reverse. And here we're going, it's like densifying things, going from like air, like space into, dense, into like physical, turning it into like a sort of, like embodied physical. But the thing I wanted to say right now is that I forgot, um, that this is a pain. This is, and I'm going to use the word pain, um, because there's something about existing in the space of possibility. And, I had a teacher and I think I tried to get this into the book, but it didn't make it. I had a teacher in college, a literary, it was like Latin American fiction or something, where we read like Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And remember he talked about, this notion of, it's like when you're standing in front of the 32 flavors of Baskin Robbins, in that moment, you have them all. And in that moment, that there's this kind of thing where you have nothing and everything. And being in that kind of notion of like, wow, this, like, what will this be? It's, there's a pleasure in it, along with the kind of the uncertain, the kind of energy that drives it to keep moving forward, which is, like the squeeze, like it's getting squeezed. That's it. And it's like, and I remember him, the professor saying that, you pick the pistachio, and now all of a sudden, it's like, it's like, and you have ice cream, but every option is now, and I guess people could use this for all sorts of things, like, marriage, or, picking a job or whatever, all this kind of stuff. But point being, that right now what I'm experiencing with this is that. And with bringing Parinama into the world, I initially, like doing it in the Parinama way, really took the gates and fences off the limits, as far as like, if somebody wanted a copy of the book, I'd send it to them. If somebody couldn't afford it, if it wasn't in their budgets, it is an expensive book, and they said it's calling to me, or, and just in a couple, number of instances, I'd send a copy. And now this is where it's creating the squeeze, is it's like the learning, it's paying attention. The vision part is seeing like who really connects with this. And that the response to that is a squeeze, because it's actually tightening the reality into the singular bowl of ice cream. And I'm finding right now that my tolerance of this feeling is showing up as frustration. I'm frustrated, like, so what's arising is I'm frustrated in the people that are going to get, like, who are not in this, like, the vision and the direction this is going. It's not for them, it's not their fault, nobody owes anything to this. This actually exists exactly for its purpose of who it's supposed to be for and who it belongs to. And so it's really, there's nothing in that. But I think the thing is part of it is also, there might be a little bit of hurt too that I feel that has to do with having wanted um like different people to be um responding to this. And this has to do with, I think that I think, like, when I talk about it from a high horse perspective, it's like, well, I wanted to give this to, or my hope was that this would, like, be helping people, kind of underpowered people uh, ascend, But I also think that it has to do with my third hub adaptation, which actually is my level of comfort with people who have less power than me. And so one of the things that's, like, becoming very apparent is that the people that are the most attracted to this and actually really coming, like, really showing me, like, in terms of this clarity, it's increasingly people have more power than I do. And that in and of itself is, like a reconciliation for me. So even back to the point of transformation, in this, as it's in the descending hubs, is that the transformation, the self-actualization as we travel up the hubs, like 1, 2, 3, like in sequential order, is kind of like clearing away of awareness. But then the creation, when we're coming back down, is just as transformative, because it actually, like, it bumps up against the against our um adaptations. And it's a force of transformation. And as like, when the time comes, and it'll be in a while, when we're reading this together, if you have the book, you can just read it. It's chapter 12. We won't read it for a while because we're on chapter 6, and it's taken us almost half a year to get here. So I guess maybe it'll be Christmas that we'll read this. I'll wear a Santa hat for chapter 12. um, but the point, like, one of the things I think that's just important about like, things we create, and why we're going, like, this direction first, is that to be able to build the thing that is, like, in your soul's purpose, to express yourself in the way that is in complete integrity with yourself, means that you will have to we have to become an expanded notion of what we already are. Like, there's more, like, there's an inhabiting of a true selfhood, of integrity, that needs to happen. So if we go backwards, or we start from the top, I mean, it's a rough ride, because we're having to work through just cold, go right into um, feelings of security, emotional capacity, about being able to occupy power, our drive, our force, our individuality, to stand on our own, to create something. You have to stand on your own, um, or at least stand away from something. And even just how our relationships with people, our ability to speak and create. And so this process, I guess, like, any way you'd approach it, it is going to be a agent for transformation. But I just want to say that right now, it is like, I think I'm feeling sad about realizing that this is who I will be catering to and building this for is not going to be everybody. I mean, that's just the reality. Nothing is for everybody. And in that tightening, that it's interesting that I'm sad, and how I'm expressing that is in the pattern that is comfortable for me expressing that emotion, which is kind of externalizing it and blaming other people in a way, like being like, I'm trying to blah, 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 and they're not blah, 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 which is interesting because that sort of takes this like it kind of takes this focus away from this reality that there is this like kind of extraordinary phenomenon that is showing up about the folks that are very invested in doing this. So, even, back to even the notion of gurus is that I absolutely could find it absolutely inconceivable that there's anybody that could be a teacher who teaching is not part of their own process of growth and transformation, because the simple fact is that once you have fully integrated something, it becomes increasingly difficult to access the phenomenon of it. So if somebody can teach to it and speak to it, it's still something that is like in part of like what we're transmuting in the process of transformation. So gurus and people that know everything, who they're not they you look this they're just not going to be able to like teach you. We kind of need to learn from people that are sort of like in the kind of like within our level of like kind of where we're at with stuff too, or like within the spectrum or whatever. I'm not articulating that well, but it's kind of like one example of this on a professional, practical notion is that, someone who's just starting out in their career, is like an entry level marketer, whatever, wouldn't really benefit from being mentored by the CEO in a company. And I'm not drawing that as like this is what this is, but I'm just trying to make the point of just someone who can teach you is going to still have a taste in their mouth of like what the lived phenomenon is. Because once you start working with CEOs, they can't even relate because it's just been a long time. And also a lot of the transformation lessons and the learning from, for senior level leaders, it's the things that are on their mind that they're thinking about, they're working on, and or that they've even been working on the last 3 to 5 years, just very different. And so it kind of clears the cache, and a lot of the earlier stuff is just integrated. It's integrated in where we're at, in this. So anyway, who knows if I like whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to read from the basics. We're starting in 18 minutes. That seems like pretty par for the course. I think the one that I did this morning was like less than 3 minutes where I started reading, which seemed like absolutely like extraordinarily out of character. So here we go. So third hub, switching gears a little bit, back in the saddle here. So the basics. So our lives are shaped by the decisions we make and the actions we take. Ba-doom. So our world is like a democracy in which the deeds we perform are like votes cast for the reality we want. Our choices and the resulting actions we take reflect back on us, forming our self-perception and, to a certain extent, creating our view of how the world operates. Wow, that's kind of like an early Parinama hairball right in there. What do you know? Yeah, not surprising. It seems to happen a lot. Okay, so I guess it was surprising, and now I'm kind of okay. Perhaps we worry about how others will judge our behavior, overlooking the important point of how the things we do shape our relationship with ourselves. Our actions become what we know ourselves to be capable of doing. Although an observer may have an opinion, you carry the awareness of your tendencies and capabilities with you everywhere you go. This profoundly affects who you believe yourself to be. The answer to the question, did anyone see that, is always yes, you did. This one actually had a lot more like meat in it in terms of its creation, but it's like when people steal or kind of like just do kind of stuff that is harmful and don't get caught. Like the idea of like having gotten away with something. It's like you didn't get away with shit. Like this about yourself, and now you've informed your sense of what reality is that this is what people do. So when we it's like when it's like, wow, what a good person, they returned this or they did this or like they found a wallet and returned it and stuff like that. Um, well, first of all, this whole good bad person thing, not for right now. But the idea is like what you're doing is you're shaping your idea of how the world operates, and instead of being like, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just it's like a thing. It's a thing. And it's like when we do something to someone, we're like, I got away with that. But now you like live with the person that does that kind of stuff. Like, and also you just are always kind of like have to be like sort of watching out for folks, because now that you have a lot of consciousness about like this is the kind of stuff people do. So, all right, that's a really big one. That could be like a cone. You could talk about that for probably the rest of our lives, and we wouldn't even scratch the surface. So, anyhow, what we do is just as much about choosing inaction as it is about choosing action. Both carry implications, action and inaction, and the profound intensity these opposites these opposites existing simultaneously, paradoxically, is demonstrated in the image of Buddhist monk Nick Kwang Dok immolating himself in, oh my gosh, my eyes are blurry, in 1963 in protest of religious persecution as he sits in meditation. So this point of action and inaction and like the example I'm using is, the image of, as most people have seen, is the monk in Vietnam sitting in stillness as they had set themselves on fire in an intersection in the street, in Vietnam. So some spiritual practices encourage surrender as radical acceptance to whatever arises in our lives, but there's a significant difference between surrender and passivity. Surrender allows for the acceptance of what is as the foundation of constructive action. Passivity allows for docile and avoidant inaction. Passivity waits to be rescued and turns a blind eye, allowing others to suffer. Personal power is the surrender to the sometimes painful acceptance of what is real, which demands action in the courage to either walk away, continue with full acceptance, or stay and create change. Taking responsibility is at the pinnacle of authentic power and leadership. Whew, here we are. We're doing it. Chapter 6, the third hub. Woo! All right. Okay, so combustion, metabolism, and transformation. When power is compressed, it becomes volatile. If it's not contained and focused, it can dissipate or become explosive. In this hub, there's a balancing act between action and inaction on a spectrum between destruction and impotence. Fire without limitation or direction inflates, dominates, and consumes everything around it. But with restriction and direction, it shrinks, submits, and is extinguished. The third hub is central to any transformation, and change requires the horsepower of strength and courage. Digestion of food and our metabolism are practical examples of our physical ability to access and transform power from our environment to use in our bodies. The literal transformation, the literal the literal transformation effectively digests. Let's see what this. The literal transformation of food to energy happens in our digestive system. Knowing which foods our body responds to and effectively digests, and knowing if we have allergies or autoimmune issues helps us consciously manage the process of optimizing and fueling our lives. Ooh, okay. There you have it. This is it's just the beginning. Okay. There's really a lot in here. I mean, I think that, yeah, there's a lot in here, but I'm not going to go off on it. There, you can journal on it. All right, sending you lots of love, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much, everybody who has been watching these. It really is amazing to have this connecting with other people. It could, I mean, I think that something is that this is connected with me through something that's larger than I can conceive. And so, yeah, it's really great to have you here with us. And and all comments will be answered. Like, subscribe, share, get this out there. I think that one of the things I'm going to become increasingly sort of cognizant of is getting this into a place where it is available to the people who, who this is who this is meant for. So anyway, all right, bye for now. See you next time. Bye.